Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to Leadership Lunch Chat. My name is Jennifer Wilson, and with me today is my good friend Amy Vetter.
Hello.
And we are, hello, and we are here to process ideas and issues in the leadership realm, mostly related to the public accounting profession, where Amy and I both are consultants and work. And we are super interested in processing kind of the here and now ideas, questions, and issues. And last week we talked about growth, and in particular, we talked about the importance of getting in front of key clients with issues that are pressing against them now. And those issues that we kind of used as an example last week was the big beautiful bill and how they have a million questions. And even if it doesn't, relate to tax returns coming up or even tax planning maybe at your end, they wonder and they want to hear from you. And so we talked about that last week. This week we thought we'd talk a little bit about artificial intelligence, AI, and really like what we're hearing inside firms, how it is evolving, where it's really being used, where we're surprisingly discovering it's not being used or not even being discussed. But also, maybe we could extend it a little bit, Amy, in this conversation to it's not just about how you're using it and how you're deploying it and how you're strategizing for it and the influence it'll have on your practice. It's also going to have a tremendous influence on your clients. And are you learning enough to take a leadership position with them, to assist and guide them, not necessarily us promoting you to go out and be an IT consultant necessarily, but certainly being silent on it as a strategic advisor to their businesses and to them as individuals is probably not a good idea. Silence is never a good idea with our clients. And so we're going to process the latest in our own minds anyway on AI. And we welcome you to get in here with comments along the way. So, Amy, do you want to take that backdrop and see where it takes you?
Sure. Thanks for the pitch. So, one of the things that I work with firms about is that you also don't want this to take over everything. So, in your strategic plan, there should be 20% of time put aside either with your people or a team is dedicated and they represent 20%, whatever that is, to doing innovation testing and seeing what works for your firm, because you've got to keep people working as you're testing and seeing what works, what doesn't work, who are some friendly subject matter experts in the firm that want to test things with your client. And I think it's really important first in this process is to understand what are the biggest pain points you want to solve for. So what I'm hearing right now is staffing. And what that means as far as what type of staff, what type of work, and what would it actually take care of. Another area that I'm hearing a lot in this too is quality. And who's going to do the quality review? Are we going to leave it to the humans who sometimes don't have enough time and things go out the door, maybe not perfect? Or are we going to utilize the AI for quality? And so I think it's really important that we figure out what our biggest pain points are before we go down this path. We don't want to look at everything in the world. We want to really know that we're solving for something that's going to help the organization as a whole. I've even heard, organizations say we're going to stop hiring until we figure out if AI could do some of these jobs, which is a very huge risk to take when, this world is so new right now. And, for those of us that have been around all the conferences this season, the trade show has been filled to the brim with AI companies. So my third piece of that is to solve those issues is to understand where your gaps are and make sure that you're looking at the tools you already use that are already in place in operations to see which ones already have AI components that you don't even realize you're utilizing, or nobody has kept up with the releases and has learned about the new functionality and been able to deploy it into operations and then solve for what's missing.
Oh man, that was awesome. And there's a lot there. And I'm going to start with low hanging fruit with the third idea. There are a bunch of applications of AI. Any of us using the Microsoft suite, you've got Copilot, and then Excel has a considerable amount of RPA enabled abilities, and we ought to be learning about those and making sure that we are aware of them. I have been finding a lot of young people, and I'm talking like senior level, let's say, 3 years experience, somewhere in there, who are using a lot of RPA and AI enabled abilities with their tools and suites for service delivery, and they don't tell the people above them that they're using them because they don't think we can grasp them or that we would use them. And they don't want to be told not to use them because they're such time savers. And so that's a suspicious place to look in your practice, is with your young people, to say, hey, what are you aware of? What do you know is available? What are you, hearing from peers, or what are you using already? Show me. And that's kind of an interesting thing. But I'm very concerned, because one of the things I've been doing, Amy, is I've asked every single audience, whether it's a small group of people within a department that I'm spending time with, or whether it's a large speaking engagement, I say, by show of hands, how many of you have ChatGPT on your phone? It's not very many. It's still not very many in our accounting audiences. And I'm not saying ChatGPT is your AI solution for your business at all. What I'm saying is it's a wonderful playground for individuals to start to understand the possibility of what it can do, what AI can do, the time savings ability of it. And I really worry that we're not individually learning enough about the possibilities. And I do think it is a way to start to understand time saving. And so I'll give an example. One of the things that I've been doing is, because we're speakers and teachers, we have to give analogies that help people, kind of word pictures that help them visualize things or help them make connections of things that are harder to understand, leadership distinctions or whatever they may be. And I was looking for a phrase that would replace an outdated legal term that is no longer okay to use, in my opinion. And it's the legal term Chinese wall, which means an artificial separation between two legal entities, usually, something like that. That isn't real. It's a perceived separation, but people go across and work across this. And I was trying to find an alternative for it. And, I was coming up short. So I asked ChatGPT, I explained a little bit of what I was looking for. And what I got was insane. First of all, she understood completely what I was asking. And so that was the first part that was super heartening. And it's not always like that, by the way. But second, lots of really smart choices. And she's learned that I like everything I almost always ask if I'm going to use something for her to put it in a table. And so she had a table for me. She didn't even wait for me to ask, because now she knows me. And I'm telling you, well, I'll be using a couple of those different terms and suggesting them to others when I hear them use that now sort of insensitive phrase that's been used in law forever. But we need to have a different one to use. And that's a silly example, but It's not, because the depth of I had the answer from her with the table in about, I don't know, 2 seconds, so what it would have taken for me to do that kind of thinking and thesaurus work and all of that, it just, and that's just to scratch the surface application of this. There are so many applications in all of the software that we use today, in all the web-based research that we're doing, in researching the big, beautiful bill, in research for our clients related to trends in their space. And it's just insane not to use it for processing. And, like applications, many of us have to review client agreements and pull out key contract terms and pull out compliance issues. And if you're doing compliance auditing, it's all agreement search, it's all agreement reading. And human beings take a long time often to read those and to pore over them, and they might miss things. They might not catch everything. AI will crunch that stuff up and spit it out in a table or any other format you choose. And you can test alongside it until you're comfortable that your tool will work. But man, it's amazing. And so I just think firms that are not trying it out, just like proof of concept, not necessarily rolling it out, but trying it out so we could get people kind of excited about it. I am super excited about it. I mean it. I can see how it will free us up to do so many other things for our clients and so many other things for talent and strategy in the business. If we can free these hours up, I just am scared that people aren't getting going fast enough in our profession.
Yeah, I'm finding where the best use case is, whether it's individually or for the organization at large. And really, tagging on to what you're talking about and what we talked about last week, it can be so helpful in pitching. We were talking about client growth. So, really getting ideas of what services you offer, stacking up against what a client does, and, what the information is out there on that client can really help you in pointing the conversation to the services that would be best to pitch in a client growth situation. And then, validating that information through tools that are vetted research tools. And I think that's really important, is that, although we get great answers from it, we've got to test some of those answers to make sure that we feel comfortable with it, that it's accurate or it's not old information, and so forth. And I think another great use for what you were talking about too is communication. And so one of the things that, comes up so much in an organization, many of the issues come down to communication, and we don't do a ton of training on it. And when we know the personality traits of someone we're going to have a meeting with, or a difficult meeting with, or someone that, we're trying to pitch a new idea to in the organization, having it help you with structuring that conversation so that you go about that conversation in the proper way, when you feel like you might not be the one alone, to have that assistance to be able to do that is huge in our human relationships as well. I mean, there's things that this will never do, but can it augment and can it help our connections and our relationships?
Yes. And, if we're honest with ourselves, I don't know that many people that do that thorough of research to prepare for client meetings and prospect meetings. Like they're a lot of us are going video call to video call, or we're heads down with deliverables that are due today, tomorrow, or the next. And then we have a prospect call or an important client meeting coming up, and we're like prepping right before it, or not prepping at all, prepping as it starts, or just going in it thinking I know this client well enough or whatever. And I'm not, I don't think that we're that self-honest about it as a profession, that our level of preparation isn't what it could be to make the kind of difference we could make for others. And I believe that that's one of the first places that AI could just dramatically assist you. And I just got exposed this week to a tool, and we're not naming names here because we're not endorsing. I haven't tested this stuff. I can't say anything about it, but a tool that with the appropriate security, privacy, and confidentiality firewalls, you load your clients' last 2 or 3 years tax returns in, and it'll give you 10 points to go talk to them about for tax planning and tax savings and did they considers. And that's different than like just feeding it into a chat GPT and saying, I'm going to a manufacturer that's $30 million in this city and they focus on manufacturing these items. What are the top 10 things I should ask? ChatGPT can tell you that. I mean, you don't have to name names or anything. It doesn't have to be confidential. That's a no-brainer. That's an easy one. And I think most people know that and are using that. So if you're not doing that, at least, but these tools that are like behind your firewall or protected and walled off, that those, to be able to get 10 very specific to the client's tax returns, ideas for advisory questions to ask or things to bring up, and to go in with that kind of preparation for the meeting, you're going to wow the clients because they probably have picked up that you're like opening their file as you're starting the call normally. You know what I mean? So I just think there's just so much assistance available to us right now. Anyway, got to try.
Well, and that's really where you got to come back to what are your priorities in the organization. If you're going to make space to test, you don't want to get to the point where you're overwhelming yourself with everything out there, right, that you start getting focused on what are the biggest needs. And if that is a need of your organization where you want to level up outside of compliance and go into advisory work, not only do you have to learn the technology, but just having it spit information out to you is not going to be enough. There's going to need to be education on how to run that conversation, how to be effective with it, how to price it, all of those things to make sure that that time that you spend with that you're really evaluating the right ROI on an application. I think too many times what I see is that we just put something in and say, oh, it didn't work, or it didn't give me anything for this one thing I tried, but I didn't really do the full training around it. I didn't really think about what the full process is and put it into play in real life, testing with 1 or 2 people that I already know before I start pitching it somewhere else, to make sure that something works or doesn't work, or might be the carrot to get other work into your business as well. So, or level up your fees. So I think it's important that space is created. And when I say space, that means like you can't be multitasking. You have to be completely focused on learning the entire opportunity and what the technology enables you as a human to do, whether it's you individually, whether it's for your business. It doesn't matter, what that bigger picture is, but you've got to look at the whole thing and not just be like putting a toe in and then taking it out,
Yeah. Well, and I think, for folks that have multiple people in their business, it doesn't have to be you. And if you're hearing us and you're thinking, I don't have time, but there are other people in the business, let's make space and time for somebody who is super interested and wants to. It doesn't have to be a senior leader. It doesn't have to be the department head. It doesn't have to be the person who owns QC or QR. It doesn't have to be the audit methodology person. I mean, it'd be nice if it was, but it doesn't have to be the most process-based person in the business that does the first study. It's got to be somebody interested, and they have to have the time to do it, and they have to be able to figure out options. The other thing is, Amy, and we've been saying this a lot in our business, to firms. This is not traditional, like the olden days when we thought, I'm going to change, our bill pay system. Let's go evaluate 4 products. Let's meet with every vendor, get detailed demos, do side-by-side analysis, build tables, have 16 meetings, and then run it up 5 administrative levels before we could pick it, and then take a year to implement it. This cannot be like that. This has to be a little bit, in my opinion, more pop-up working group, guerrilla warfare type, let's get something going. And not and be okay that it is we might start with one, and for us in our business, our first thing was a recap writer, because we write a million recaps, and we did study the heck out of them because we were scared of confidentiality and privacy and all these other things. We had to have some confidence, and we eliminated a bunch because of that, but we did pick one. And maybe it's not the horse we'll ride forever. It's one we're riding now, and we're all learning a whole lot about them. And a whole lot about some cool things we didn't even expect from them. Like, Amy and I could have had a call, and I had it write a recap for us, and she used, some product name, and I can remember the product name, but I can't remember who told me. And then I just have to search in my recap writer for the product name, and it'll pop up every time it came up in any of the transcripts. Nice. It's ridiculous. It's crazy. And you could use that actually for like super common trends in leadership coaching of managers. Like what are the same words that pop up, that kind of thing. So there's all sorts of cool applications, but you got to be willing to fail forward. You got to be willing to recognize that these are not forever. Some firms are wondering, should we wait till there's a whole suite of tools that will automate that entire process? And I'm scared for you to do that. I think that's going to take too long. And there are some suites that are getting close, but I just think it's okay to go ahead and do a little bit of best of breed, pick a tool, pick an application, get going. You might have to toss it out later when somebody incorporates that same thing into your suite. But I would not wait. I would get going with something stat. And the other thing is start talking to your clients about it. And I would ask, what are you doing in AI? What are you thinking about in AI? Because they may shock you and be way ahead, and they could be of help in their insights, but they might also shock you that they're using AI sort of to see if what you're telling them is valid, and that they're starting to use some tools internally that you need to be aware of, because they could disintermediate in some ways, and you want to know that. And then they might be like, AI, we're not even talking about it. And you could at least start an early conversation about where you're headed, so that they can get going, start practicing some stuff. So I think we've AI'd ourselves to the finish line. So we welcome your thoughts and ideas on this, and any subjects that you'd like us to cover, you can sure reach out to us individually or through social media. We are here on Fridays. I don't know if we're here next Friday, but most Fridays we show up and talk about issues facing the profession, and we're really grateful for you attending with us. Thanks for everything you're doing in the profession to grow and learn and share your ideas with us. Thanks, everybody.
See you later.